Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Nasdaq Futures ICT Weekly Outlook 2026, Episode 10. For this week, we have an interesting week ahead of us because NFP was supposed to be last week, but got moved to this week. So I'll be going over the protocol that we have for NFP weeks. So on Monday, as you guys can see, we have no high impact or medium impact news for Monday. So I will be avoiding Monday. I'll be going over specifically why I would be avoiding a specific day and not trading the 9:30 open as I would normally would. For Tuesday, we do have news at 8:30 New York local time, two red folders, which is normally a trading day, but like I mentioned, NFP was moved to this week, and for some reason it's on a Wednesday. So the day before NFP for me is still active, so that means that on Tuesday is a no trading day for me personally because it is the day before NFP. On Wednesday, we have NFP coming out at 8:30 and the unemployment rate. On this specific day, I will be looking at the New York session starting at 9 a.m. On Thursday, we have unemployment claims at 8:30 New York local time, which normally again would be a trading day. But I want you guys to notice another high impact news that we have here on Friday the 13th, to be exact. A little funny there. We have CPI. So for me, the rules are NFP, CPI, FOMC. Those specific days, the day prior to those high impact news events, I am not trading. So I will be following my rules this week, just like I do every other week. The day before NFP, I will not be trading. So Tuesday is a no trading day. Thursday is a no trading day. And Monday, because we have no high impact news. And I will show you specifically why on the charts we had such a large expansion that I would be avoiding today's price action. So for me, this specific week, I will be trading on Wednesday after the 8:30 news is released. And then again on Friday, after the 8:30 high impact news is released, after 9 a.m., I will be looking for SMT to occur between ES, NQ, and YM to continue what I would be expecting is the draw on liquidity for the week. And when we look at the earnings calendar, we have nothing on the docket that seems of interest to me specifically. So this is just a normal earnings week. There's no magnificent seven stocks being looked at for this specific week. So for earnings, we can just trade it as normal. But when it comes to the specific game plan for the week, I will be doing what I said, where I will be avoiding, just to go back, Monday's price action. Tuesday, because it is the day before NFP, it was moved to this week. And then Thursday, I will be avoiding price action because it is the day before CPI. So now with that being said, let's get into the charts. All right, everyone, here we are on the E-mini Nasdaq March 2026 contract on the daily time frame. And before we get started, I want to point out and give shout outs and respects to Day for coming out with quarterly theory. From moving on forward from now on, I would be talking to you from the time cycles of through the perspective of quarterly theory. I recently switched over to the quarterly theory from the different time cycles that I was using prior. I'm not going to name the specific time cycles I was using prior. But if you know me, I used to be a moderator for a specific group. And I'll leave it at that if you do know who I am. And I used to adhere to specific time cycles. But from now on, I will be doing all the weekly outlooks, and the SMTs that I refer to will be through sequential SMT. That's all. Shout out to Day for coming out with quarterly theory. This is all through his knowledge, and I'm just applying it and showing the consistency through it, and certain little hints of the SMTs that I will be pointing out today is also through some credits to Brox. Shout out to Brox. He's a excellent trader, very smart guy, and he has some pretty good tips. And I just thought I will be showing them to you guys as well. So for this SMT that we have here, in order for it to be sequential SMT, it has to be with previous quarter that you're specifically looking at. And this can be applied to any time cycle because time is fractal. And this is why I specifically like quarterly theory, because it's very, very objective. There's nothing for you to think about. The rules are there, and it's always with the previous quarter. And the SMT has to occur below the opening of the cycle that it happens in. So since this is a monthly SMT between January and February, that means that the SMT has to occur on all assets below the monthly open. So now when we put back the quarterly cycles to show the true openings, I want you guys to notice here that the weekly open and the quarterly cycles, true monthly open, kind of overlap each other, like literally overlap each other, which means that even on the regular month, right, opening on February 2nd, which is the month that everyone pays attention to, and if we're adhering to the quarterly time cycles, which we now are, the true open and the true weekly and the true daily is always the second quarter or the second week of the month or the time cycle that we're paying attention to. Because again, it can be applied to any fractal. We have true opens for months, we have true opens for the week, we have true opens for the day, we have true opens for the session, and we even have true opens for the micro sessions. So, as you guys can see, the SMT gets put in now below the true monthly open on all assets. So, just to show you guys real quick on ES here, you guys can see that the SMT occurs below the true monthly open that's over here as well. And to show you how it happened here on YM, this is the SMT that occurred where YM failed to take the previous monthly low of January. This is the low that ES and NQ took. YM failed to take it and putting a new all-time high, which we do have a new all-time high SMT at the highs, but until this SMT is invalidated, I expect a continuation higher. So now, looking at this chart, last week I was calling for lower price action. I had said that we can take this December low, and if it was really overzealous, it would take this November low. We did take the December low, but we failed to take the November low. But we did reach this rejection block here. This, according to ICT himself has said, is enough for a stop run on price. And we have this sequential SMT that occurred at the right place at the right time. So this is blending time and price. So until that low is invalidated and this SMT is invalidated, I expect price to continue higher. So even though we've had a really bearish week and this big move lower where everyone else is probably scared and thinking that we're in a consolidation and they're waiting to see if we're going to continue lower and calling for higher prices, specifically based on this and the specific move that we close higher. To me, all programs are saying that we're in a buy program again. And until NQ specifically invalidates this low on the daily, and ES also invalidates this specific low on the daily time frame, I expect price to continue higher. So now let's break it down into the smaller time frames to get a closer look at price. All right, so here we are on the 1 hour time frame for the E-mini Nasdaq futures contract, March 2026. Last week I had said that once we close below this specific area here, highlighted in orange, that I wanted to see price return back into it, create some sort of SMT, so then continue lower to take the previous monthly low, which is the January low, and then we had the December low and the November low. So the week opens, trades higher, smashes through this area at first, no SMT is formed, we trade higher, end up creating SMT with a different time cycle here, with YM on the monthly at the highs. And then Tuesday puts in the high of the week, Q2, which is more than likely Tuesday and Thursday to create the high and low of the week, according to today. And as you guys can see, here and here is the high and low of the week, which is, in my opinion, not random. We then come lower, come back higher, and then inside of this area, like I said, that I wanted to see SMT form before taking these lows, it happens in this area. I personally was able to execute on this trade. I got myself funded with a Lucid account, specifically with this move here lower. And I want to show you guys the SMT real quick that I'm referring to. Here we are on ES on the 1 hour time frame on the same day on Wednesday. I want you guys to pay attention to when the high was put in here. We have these highs here and here, where ES put in the high in Q3 and the Nasdaq put in the high for the day in Q2. So that specific SMT is what I was looking for. Now, when we come back to the Nasdaq contract, it becomes very obvious to see that the sequential SMT here was valid. And another thing too, the same thing that applies on the monthly time cycle, we do to these same time cycles here. The SMT that occurs has to happen above the opening of the time cycle. And as you guys can see here, the open happens here. Price comes up, creates SMT above the open of this time cycle that creates the SMT, and then expands lower. And if we go back to look at ES to validate the SMT, here we are on ES. This was the current time cycle that it created in. This is the open for that time cycle. Price opens, trades up, creates SMT, which makes it valid on both. And I hope you guys are paying attention to that specific gem. So I remember when I first heard it, it's very objective, like I said. It takes the guessing off what SMT that you're paying attention to, for one, because it's sequential SMT. So it has to be with the previous time cycle. So it's not every single SMT. So you don't have 50 SMTs on your charts, especially when you're paying attention to YM, where YM, in my opinions, is an asset that was only created to create SMT with ES and NQ. And that specific asset will create SMT on all sides, in all directions sometimes. And this specific rules and objectives that quarterly theory gives us, in my opinion, makes everything a lot more easier to stay disciplined and stick to your rules. And this specific gem that Brox and Day have dropped, in my opinion, it's amazing. And when we come back to the Nasdaq, we can see that this S&T from the open on Wednesday gave a 647 point expansion, which continued into the next day to well over 1,000 points, I would say. Let's see. Yeah, 1,000, 1,200 points to create a low. So I don't blame people for thinking that things are bearish and that price isn't going to continue higher, and hearing me say that I want to see price continue higher, to think that it's foolish. But rules are rules, and in my opinion, we are in a buy. Not even in my opinion, in based on my program and my protocol, we are in a buy program. And for me, I'm paying attention to this here. So now moving forward for this week's price action, I'm paying attention to this specific 1 hour BISI here, and the IOFED that we created here. This is what ICT classifies as an institutional order flow entry drill, where we barely tap into a fair value gap, rebalancing that fair value gap to continue higher. So now I'm paying attention to this specific low. So for the week open, I'm expecting any low to come here, form some sort of SMT in this area. It can even come back to here if it wants to. But once we close below these invalidation areas on the 1 hour, I would suggest that the current buy program to be over. So until that happens, every retracement lower is just to be viewed as a retracement. And specifically waiting for the third time cycle of the specific session that you're trading, or a specific day, which happens to align with New York morning session, is the best time to start hunting. So with that being said, I am bullish on the week. This is my invalidation on the daily. And this is my invalidation for intraday trading. very straight to the point. And I hope this weekly outlook helped you. And good luck and good trading.